Hello and welcome to our Creators Assemble Limelight interview. I am Joe Barrett, the co-founder and current vice president of Creators Assemble. Today we are bringing you the first in the monthly series where we bring attention to talented, undiscovered artists. This month we are bringing you a young artist, Elias Campos, who art has been, you may already be familiar with. He actually did our logo that you currently see on the page. You can also see his other art on our galleries on display at creatorsassemble.org. Thank you for being here, Elias.
Thank you, Joe.
Let's kind of start from the beginning. What draws you to art? What is this kind of motivation for you? What's moving you forward here?
So for arts, in my opinion, it started out when I was pretty young. I needed some sort of creative outlet, just because when we were growing up, it was always schoolwork or actual work, and so in order to actually, uh, do something, in order that way I wouldn't be stuck in that rut. I was drawn to cartoons, and so I decided to just scribble and doodle on homework and assignments and stuff like that. And from there, one of my teachers said, you should really start thinking about, taking art as an elective. And so probably around eighth grade was when I finally started learning about art.
Well, yeah, I mean that kind of strikes as maybe one of your possible earliest influences there. Then would be your eighth grade teacher there.
Yeah, she was awesome, and she actually she I had no experience with art. All I did was, like I said, doodles, and just try to see what I had, what was on TV, and I would just try to mimic it on the piece of paper or on the homework assignments. And as soon as eighth grade hit, I was like, I'm gonna take this a little bit further, and from there, I just started learning about shape, shading, perspective, stuff like that. Like intro stuff. But after that, I started sticking with it, and then in college, I took a couple courses, and so from there was, I was able to be exposed to different kinds of art.
Well, that's fantastic. I guess what are some of your favorite mediums to kind of
So
create?
I actually started out with pencil and paper, and that has always been my go-to. Whether I do now that I've been dabbling in digital art for a couple months, but
Mm-hmm.
it's always pen and paper. And one of the things that I really like to do in my art style is use really bold black lines,
Mm-hmm.
and I really like the contrast between black and white. I don't use colors unless it's going to be for an illustration.
Okay.
And I do that when I'm doing either like a piece, like if I'm going to use like it for like a children's book, because that's also one of the other ways that I got inspired. But altogether, it's just the big bold black lines, trying to get it the shadowing correctly, and trying to work with it. But yeah, the original one and the one that I always go to is pencil and paper.
No, that's being a writer myself. That's kind of the old school mentality of I just really like just
Yeah.
getting in there with a pencil and pen, and it's just I don't know. There's something natural about it where your hand is actually putting something together, and there's nothing digital in that aspect. So
Right, yeah, because once you start in the digital, it's like it's almost too perfect.
exactly. Where are the flaws? The
Where
flaws
are
are
the
what.
flaws, right?
Well, that's awesome. I guess what uh, what kind do you find challenging about doing it digitally as opposed to by hand?
So digitally is rather new to me. I was never taught. I only saw a lot of artists going that route within the past couple of years, and
Hmm.
so I decided to finally invest in a tablet and just trying to test it out myself. And so far, I've been noticing that it's a lot easier to erase mistakes instead of having to restart. but it's definitely made it a lot easier to mass produce certain things, like settings or certain figures and stuff like that. But like you said, there's nothing better than just pen and paper, you know.
No, that's the truth. So I guess people interested, what kind of genres, what kind of things do you really like to dive into?
So I really I work in a children's department at a library, and so I'm drawn to children's books. But I also do goth and kind of like rocker style sort of stuff. And so I kind of want to blend a little bit of both in my art, where it's like the black bold lines with like some a little bit of color here and there, but it's like bold art, like it's like in your face, like this is mine.
Oh
So
yeah,
I try to do that and try to mix it up a little bit. One of the mediums that I had been using for a long time was Copic markers,
hmm
and those are expensive. But with digital art, you can download the palettes, and so it's a lot easier, to get a different color instead of having to go pay $7 for $5 to $7 for a pen, and then taking it back home and trying it out.
Oh, of course, absolutely. Well, so what's your favorite piece that you've kind of drawn
So
up?
I have, yeah, so I have quite a few pieces in here. One of my favorite ones that I actually really started out only as a black and white concept is Doyle from the Misfits, and it was only supposed to stay black and white originally. So I sketched it out on pencil and paper, and then I started doing the Copics and grays and blacks and stuff like that. But then I
Oh,
was
that's
like, you know what? It's a little bit kind of off. It's missing something. So I was like, you know what? I need to add something to make it pop. So I decided to add some yellow and some pink in the back and some blue for the shadowing. And ultimately, this is what it came out. And so I really like this piece. Another one is this lichen that I did. I've been drawn to werewolves and vampires and supernatural stuff, and so with the black and the whites, it definitely helps out to make something like this. This one was only done in marker and pen. This one, I believe, I only did a little bit of the sketching, but the overall product is Copics and Micron pens. And so this
wow.
one, the only color I did was the yellow eyes, but yeah, those are two of the ones that I really go to that I really like. Something that I would probably think about making a series in the future. But yeah, for now, though, those ones are
Oh,
it.
that's incredible. And just for the audience watching this, you don't have to worry about Elias driving right now. He's actually parked. He's, he's,
I have both hands right here.
he's not he's not speeding down the highway or anything like that. It's about the only quiet place you can get sometimes. And trust
That's
me, I've
right.
I've snuck out to my car too to get away from the kids when I can't hear myself think too. So I completely understand here.
No, no,
Uh,
yeah. Like I said, it's different, but it's quiet.
so what I mean you talked about your eighth grade teachers being one of your early inspirations. Who inspires you now? Who kind of really gets that motor going for you?
Well, so it actually shifted, and I mean, I still hold her to high regards. But it's looking at these children's illustrators that have been dabbling in mixing of the mediums. Someone like Oliver Jeffers, who's a New York Times bestselling author, he did Lost and Found, and he does everything by hand first. Then he puts different kind of popping colors on there, and then he actually puts it in digital format, and so that's how he gets his books. And he's really good with it. And another one is Scott Campbell. I was able to meet him at WonderCon one year. He is amazing. I read his stories in Storytime for the Kids, and he's the one that did Hug Machine, Zombies 1 and 2. And so he actually does watercolor, but then he puts it in digital format in order to fix those kinds of like little imperfections.
Mm.
And I was actually able to talk with him for 15 minutes, and he was able to sell me one of his prints. So I actually have this on my wall. And so what I do is I'm like, you know what? This one he calls vests because it's the different pop culture characters wearing vests throughout time,
Mm.
and I actually like wearing vests too. So as you can see, like this is all digital, but he did it. He started out with watercolor.
Oh, that's
And so
fantastic.
he's really good. And I think the main one that I can think of, even when I was little, is Maurice Sendak. He did Where the Wild Things Are, and
Mm,
he did a lot of pen work, and he did a lot of colors, and he did dabble in kind of like the horror fantasy, but for children. And so he's the one that I kind of I really like his stuff, and so I try to emulate some of it sometimes with the colors, but other than that, yeah, those are my go-tos.
that's fantastic. I guess, well, inside of you, what's the fire that pushes you? What makes you want to be, that fantastic artist that you haven't been discovered yet, but we want to kind of get you there. And so, what's the fire that keeps you pushing and moving?
Definitely is a lot to do with you got to have a good support system, and I think right now, thanks to you guys and to my friends and family, you gotta find a place that inspires you and to keep going. And so, whenever I do a piece, it's never one thing and it's done. I always look for it to see if I can improve upon it, and that's what I'm gonna try to do. Every day I draw, even if I don't like what I see, I still look at it. I never delete work or I never throw it away. I just look at it as a reminder that I can still get better. And one of the things that does that is I actually have, and I left it inside my room. It's a picture that I drew when I was in third grade, and it was for a video game that came out. And it was Pokemon XD. It came out
Mm,
for the GameCube, and it was Dark Lugia, and that was like a new concept. And when I was a kid, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna capture that, but I'm gonna draw it first. And I drew that one in crayon. And so I have that on my wall, and that's the reminder. I can always improve. And I look at it now, and I'm like, you know what? That little kid, he had an imagination, and so I'm like, I gotta still keep with that imagination to keep going.
oh, that's fantastic. That's a motivating story if I ever heard one in my life. So I guess part of as we know, being an undiscovered artist or actually just being an artist in general, a lot of times it doesn't pay the bills like we hope it does. And
Hmm.
and so I guess um what uh what kind of struggles do you have to kind of deal with on that day to day of, like, how do I got to do some art, but man, I got to work too, and I got to take care of family, and I got so much to do. What kind of helps you through that?
So one of the things that I tend to do is everyone has family and everyone has issues and everyone has a voice in their head where it's like, and I'm sure you get it as a writer too, where it's like, you feel like you're not good enough, that you're not good enough to be on par with those kinds of illustrators and artists and writers. But what I tend to do is, I tend to drown out those kinds of voices, and I listen to myself that you got to keep going. You can always make better art. And one of the things that I do is I really like to listen to music, as you can tell. And so I really like to put on my music, and I just tend to drown out the voices and focus on what I'm going to be doing, and just go from there. Because I feel that if you start listening to the negative thoughts and those negative messages, or sometimes even people that you thought that believed in you, it can get you down. But if as long as you don't listen to that and you keep going and you know you have a root and you believe in yourself, that's the best motivator.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you brought up music, which is one of my favorite things to do while
Yeah.
I'm writing. I'll throw on the headphones and I'll disappear for hours and just get lost. Who are your favorite artists that you listen to while you're doing that?
So I really like to listen to a lot of rock. I go through phases where it's like classic rock. Sometimes it's like hard rock. Other times it's punk rock. But the ones that I always go to, it's like AFI is really good because of the different kinds of genres and the different albums they put out. Is they all sound different, but you still know that it's AFI. Panic at Disco is pretty good that I like to listen to. Some of their older stuff and some of their newer stuff, a mix of both. MCR is good for when you really feel down, you want to scream. You can put that on. Misfits for sure is another one that you can scream along to. Rob Zombie, Marilyn Manson is another one. I mean, some people might not like his music and stuff, but I do like his covers. Nine Inch Nails, Nirvana, stuff like that.
Oh,
Classic rock, it's when it's a calm day at home that I'll listen to like the Who, Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, the Clash, stuff like that.
that's fantastic. So I guess one of the questions that people like tend to ask is, Batman versus Superman, who you got, kind of thing.
Ooh, well, as since we know each other, you know what my answer is as a default. I mean, I am a big Flash fan. Like I own Flash like there's no other, and I wish that we would have been in my room because I have Flash memorabilia all over the place. But if you had me at gunpoint and you were like, "Hey, Batman or Superman," I am gonna tell you the Flash.
Excellent. I'm not going to argue with that because that is actually a fantastic answer.
I mean,
And
which one
actually,
would you choose? Although I have an inkling as to which one you would choose.
you know what? I'm a Green Arrow guy, so
Heck
I have
yeah!
always loved Green Arrow. He's like a rich Batman with a bow and arrow, and it's just like, you know what? Screw it.
and survive the island.
Dude, I
Survival
mean, how
skills.
often is it? Green Arrow versus Deathstroke is like one of the best like
Oh yeah.
battles of all time. You have to go
Oh
with
yeah.
that
I
every
mean,
time.
yeah, that's one of my favorites, and I also do like Flashpoint, and I really like that they made it into animated film because they did pretty good on it.
Uh, Flashpoint's one of my favorite stories.
Yeah.
So I guess if you could do something mainstream, what would you like to do? What would be your brass ring that you can grab?
If I could do something mainstream, I would really, and this is based on the inspiration that I had growing up. I would really like to be able to teach children. To be able to draw. Either digitally or pen and paper or whatever they have, and that would be a good way to forward the knowledge that I may have gathered to the future generation, and from there maybe inspire one or two artists that potentially could inspire other artists, and just spread positive art throughout the world, and that makes the world a better place with a positive message.
It really does. I mean, that's kind of the fun part about art is that there's never too much, and
That's right.
and I think seeing it from so many different hands, so many different perspectives, it can kind of really kind of open up your eyes a little bit more to different sides of the world that you never really thought. You
Yeah,
know.
and one of the things I was going to ask you is, during this time, especially with whatever, what's going on with the world and stuff like that, have you been able to have time to work on your stuff?
Intermittently. Yeah. Actually, a couple of days ago, I was really had one of those aha moments in the shower.
Nice.
Uh, which
That's where they
I
come
tell
in.
people
That's usually where they come in for me too.
my two times that I get hit is either A, I'm in the shower, or B, it's 3 a.m. and I'm trying to go back to sleep and I can't shut it down. But
One thing that works, because I have a dream journal, and most of the time, like I'm a dead sleeper. Like I can fall asleep like within a minute. And one of the things I have and that I learned was always have like a little mini notepad. Like I have, where did it go? No. Oh, here it is. And what I do is I wake up, or I kind of wake up, I'm like half asleep, and I like write down like random notes or like symbols or stuff that I see in my dreams. And
yeah,
then that way the next day I'm like, okay, what did I do?
you just gotta watch out. Sometimes that when you look at it the next morning, you're like, "What was I doing? I must be drunk. I can't figure this out."
You're like, I can't make sense of this. What is this?
No, that's it, and that's that's kind of the fun part is when creativity strikes you,
Yeah,
you
you
just
never
have
know
to
when it's
kind
gonna
of go
get
with
you.
it, or otherwise, oh man, it'll get you in the weirdest places sometimes.
Yeah, for
So I
sure.
know you're really good with drawing faces and facial features and stuff like that, and part of me actually kind of thought about this for a little bit. You can pick an actor or an actress to kind of sketch out and draw. Who would you really like to kind of do their face?
Ooh, that is a good question. I mean, I really do like, like like people will say, stereotypically like, like Chris Evans or like Chris Pratt or, like any
Yeah.
of the actual, that they portray superheroes. But you know what? I would actually go a different route. I would, Johnny Depp has a pretty nice like facial structure, the
Mm.
cheekbones and stuff like that. So I would definitely draw, his face. I really also do like unconventional kind of like actors and actresses. So like another one would be like Ethan Hawke. He's pretty cool too.
Oh yeah.
Um, so yeah, so something like that, And the thing is, it's like the thing that I always suggest when I tell people, it's when you look at somebody's face, always look for the detail, and then focus on those details because that's what makes you individual from the rest of everybody else.
That's awesome. That's actually pretty helpful. I can't draw people for a damn, and that's many a year of trying. I could sketch, landscapes, no problem. But you try to give me a person to draw, and you're gonna be
Oh,
sorely disappointed.
Oh, it took me years because I always had a fear of drawing people. But one of my teachers in college said, he was like, you know what? He's like, everybody started drawing out with stick figures. He's like, if you can draw a stick figure, he's like, you could get to a full body. And I was like, you know what? He's right.
It takes time and effort, but you get there.
When you get there, it takes a while, but you get there. And then one of these is I was going to show you if you ever wanted advice or if any artist that would like to take a look at it. This is one of the books that I use for figure drawing. It doesn't show you step by step, but it actually gives you like different anatomy poses, and then you have to figure out like what you're going to put on top of that character.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's called Anatomy in Action. It's pretty neat, and then that's how you get most of your action shots and stuff like that. 'Cause I feel like that's one of the more difficult parts to draw. It's like drawing someone where they don't look bored, because you always want to convey some sort of action or something that they're going to be doing or potentially do. So it makes it interesting. This is one of my angels that I drew. Like I try to focus on the face,
Oh yeah,
uh,
yeah, that's
the grays and
fantastic.
stuff like that, and then I
Elementary
also have
too.
yeah, and then I have Deku here too from My Hero, trying to get that face and stuff like that. But yeah, it's like you said, it takes time and effort, and you just got to give them something in the eyes to look for.
There you go. Absolutely. So I guess as we're kind of winding this down here, well, I guess overall, what do you want to give the world? What do you want to be remembered for?
um, what I would like to be remembered for, that's a good question. I feel like it would be, positive imagery for people to enjoy. And I know that's kind of broad because, art is subjective and people like different things. But, if anything, I would just like to draw something and, make someone, appreciate it and like it, and keep it and be like, you know what, I would like something like that.
That's fantastic, man. There's nothing more that you can do for anybody than that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's pretty much it. Where can people find you on the socials?
Okay, so on my Instagram, that's where I put most of my art. It's at prongs131, and right there's sketches, Inktober stuff, stuff that I'm inspired by, and so they can check me out right in there. I also do have a Twitter, brand new Twitter, and that one is also at prongs131, and on there I will be putting more art up there and potentially getting in touch with more people. And then for sure the Creators Assemble website. I mean, you guys are awesome for doing this, and I know you guys will get better artists and awesome people, and I'm sure that this is going to blow up. It's going to be amazing because you know what? It's you guys are doing a really positive job for the world right now.
Well, we appreciate your kind words on that. So I'd just like to thank you for your time today. And I guess anybody at home, if you would be interested in being in the limelight or just looking for a helping hand in the creative world, you can visit our website, creatorsassemble.org. There you can find galleries with Elias's work, a couple other creators as well, and you can get a detailed layout of our upcoming events that we have coming on and upcoming conversations that we're going to be having with some other known creators as well. Elias, thank you again. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you doing this for us.
Oh, thank you, Joe. It's a pleasure. And like I said, whenever you guys need help, let me know.
I appreciate it. All right. You have a good one.
You too.